I was traveling on the highway from Mexico City to Cuernavaca. This time, I was with a coworker. We were chatting. It was already dawn, and I was getting sleepy, so we decided to stop so my partner could start driving and I could sleep a bit in the cab. When he got behind the wheel, I was just lying down in the back when he told me, "Gerardo, look what that is." I opened the curtain to look out, and it was an animal walking on two legs approaching our truck. We couldn't see yet what it was because it was still far away, but it looked so strange and even chilling. My partner asked me if it was an animal or a person, or what that thing was. I told him we should get out of there. Whatever that thing was, it was nothing good. So he tried to start, but we were stuck because it seemed like it had rained, and there was a lot of mud. He kept trying to get out of there, but the truck wouldn't move. That thing was getting closer, and it was taking more and more the form of an animal. It was like an ox, but standing on two legs. When suddenly it stopped. It no longer advanced toward where we were. We didn't take our eyes off it. We thought it wanted to attack us. I told my friend to move aside, that I would try to move the truck, but my attempts were in vain. One of the two of us had to get out to see where we needed to move the tires, but neither of us wanted to do it, because that thing was still there, standing, looking at our truck. I made the decision to get out to end this, but my partner told me not to do it, that that thing was waiting for us to get out to attack us or do something to us. I told him I didn't believe in those things, not to be so superstitious. But he asked me if I didn't feel that heavy energy that started to be felt since that thing appeared. The truth is, I did feel it, and I also had a fear I had never felt before. It was a very strange atmosphere, but I didn't want to feed his theory that that thing was evil. So I told him no, that I didn't feel anything, and that he should better help me get out of there. He begged me please not to get out, to listen to him. His grandfather, who was also a truck driver for decades, had told him that if a two-legged animal ever appeared to him in the middle of nowhere, he should run away from there, because that was the most evil thing one could imagine, and that he should pray to scare it away. I told him I always carried an image of God that my wife always put on the dashboard for my protection, that we could use it to pray. Without hesitating twice, he took it and started praying out loud. He asked me to join him, and so I did. Suddenly, we saw how that thing started howling so loudly that it seemed like it was right next to us. I started sweating, and my legs were trembling. My God, I had never felt so much fear. We kept praying the Lord's Prayer over and over until that thing started walking backward. It was still watching us, but it was moving away, and its terrifying howls gradually stopped being heard until we lost sight of it. My partner told me, "Now's the moment," and he quickly got out to tell me where to move the truck. We untied it very quickly and left there as soon as we could. In my life as a truck driver, without a doubt, that was the most terrifying, chilling, and frightening thing that happened to me. My name is Gerardo. For a long time, I worked as a transporter for several companies. Now I'm retired because I'm already 70 years old, but throughout my time as a truck driver, many paranormal things happened to me, and this one I'm going to tell you about. Happened 20 years ago. I was transporting construction materials from Nuevo León to the state of Mexico. I had already been traveling for 10 hours when night fell, but that was something I really liked, traveling at night because the highways were a bit emptier. I liked that feeling of tranquility and solitude. I was listening to music as I normally did when suddenly I saw in the distance a man on the side of the road hitchhiking. I immediately pulled over. Back then, it was very common to see people asking for rides, and I always agreed. I liked helping people, so this time was no exception. It was a man about 60 years old. He had dirty and somewhat old clothes. I asked him, "Where are you going, friend?" And he told me he needed help. His truck had broken down a kilometer ahead, but nobody was stopping to help him. I told him to get in, that I would take him and try to help him with my tools. The man got in and sat in the passenger seat. He was very quiet. I asked him what company he worked for, but he didn't respond at all. Then I asked him if he was okay because his clothes were torn and somewhat dirty, but he continued without saying a single word. The kilometer he had told me about had already passed, and we were supposed to have already reached where his truck was, but there was nothing. I even asked him if it was further ahead, but he just pointed with his finger ahead as if to keep driving. So I continued, but the more time passed, the more nervous I was getting because there was no truck pulled over on the side of the road, and I realized we had returned to the same place where I picked him up. It was kilometer 62. I was very surprised because it was impossible that we had returned there again if I only drove straight. There was no way to return to the same place. I didn't know what was happening. The man hadn't said a single word since he got in my truck. So, I decided to pull over and ask him to get out, because this was giving me a bad feeling. The man got out without saying anything, without thanking me or even looking at me. I saw him walk toward the woods, and there he disappeared. I didn't want to leave and abandon him there, but he was no longer visible. He had gotten lost in the bushes. I didn't know what to do because I knew it wasn't right to leave him there alone. Just then, another truck passed, and I saw it park in front of me. Then the driver got out and came to my door, calling me. I got out to see what he wanted. He told me, "Friend, you have to get out of here. You saw a man asking for a ride, right?" I asked him how he knew that. He told me that he traveled that highway almost daily, that the man who had asked me for a ride was a ghost who had had an accident right where I had my truck parked, and that the man had lost his life. For many years, he had been hitchhiking to truckers, and those who stopped to give him a ride would disappear. A friend of his, a year ago, he hadn't heard anything from him. While he was passing by that kilometer, they were talking on the radio, telling jokes and chatting when his friend told him he was going to give a ride to a man who looked like he had had an accident, that they would talk again on the radio later. After that, he hung up and we never heard anything from him or his truck again. And many other truckers told stories that this man always appeared there asking truckers for rides, and the few who had decided to stop, he took them to his limbo where he was trapped. That's why nothing was ever heard from them again. I thanked him for taking the time to stop and warn me about what happened. He told me it was no problem, that among colleagues we have to support each other. He ended by telling me that maybe it wasn't the last time I would see that man asking for a ride. If I passed by there again, I would very likely encounter him again, but that I should just ignore him and continue on my way. After that, the man left, and so did I. But to this day, I don't know why that tormented soul asking for a ride let me go. Why didn't he take me with him like the other truckers? It's something I will always wonder about. My name is Manuel, and I've been transporting merchandise in my truck for some years now. It's very hard work with a lot of responsibility, and somewhat dangerous too, because sometimes I have to travel on many highways in Mexico, some more dangerous than others, whether because of their sharp curves or because of crime. But this story I'm about to tell you far surpassed those two things. That night, I had been traveling for many hours already. I was on the highway between Tamaulipas and San Luis Potos. They were highways through the mountains with many dangerous curves. It was a difficult stretch, and as if that weren't enough, it started raining very hard. I had little experience back then. I got somewhat nervous, to be honest. The curves on that highway are a lot, especially at night with rain. As I said, I had been traveling for many hours already, so sleep started to set in. I knew I had to stop to rest for a while because it was dangerous to keep driving like that, but the next truck stop was still very far away. So I looked for some place where I could pull over and go sleep in the cab. I parked right in front of a hill, went into the woods, turned off my truck, and took my umbrella and my flashlight to get out and use the bathroom. Then I returned to my truck. But when I was walking back, I saw that on the stairs of my truck on the passenger side, there were shoe prints marked with mud, and the door was ajar because the inside light was on, and I had left both doors closed. I felt very scared because I thought someone had gotten in while I was using the bathroom. So I slowly opened the passenger door and pointed inside with my flashlight and asked, "Who's there? You have to get out." But nobody responded to me. So I decided to open the cab curtain very slowly. But before opening it completely, I heard a man's voice crying that said, "Help her. Please, help her." I opened the curtain with a jerk, but there was nobody. How could that be possible if that man was talking to me from in there? I started to tremble, but I hadn't noticed a detail. On top of the bed, in the very corner, there was a very old and dirty baby carrier with grass and mud on top, broken in some parts. I was very surprised because I didn't know how it had gotten there. I took it and threw it out. It was my truck, and it didn't give me a good feeling. I closed the door and started my truck. I didn't want to sleep anymore. I just wanted to get out of there. I was very nervous about what had happened, and also very tired because I hadn't slept in almost 20 hours. So, as I tried to get out of those woods, I hit something. I reversed a bit and got out to check what it was and if something had happened to my truck. When I walked to the front, I saw there were 3 large cement crosses. My truck had broken 2 of them. I approached to see if there was anything else. Then I saw that on the ground, on a small tombstone, it said, "Rest in peace, P. Almanza family." And there was a framed photo where a woman, a man, and a baby about a year old appeared. Apparently, they had had an accident in that place and had lost their lives. Everything made sense at that moment. I was sure that those footprints and that voice I had heard were from that man, from that tormented soul, asking me to save his baby. I started crying because my woman was pregnant. I was going to be a dad very soon. I couldn't imagine the terrible pain of that man who, even deceased, was trying to protect his daughter. A sad story. One of those that mark you for life. Thank you very much for watching this video. I invite you to subscribe to see more terrifying content. Like the video and share it with your friends. A lot of content is coming. Help me spread the fear. I'm Glenn. Until next time.